You are not the first to pass this way, nor shall you be the last.
His robotic army is stealing crystallic fusion power cells.
Please remain seated during the trip, and no smoking, please. Nous partirons prochainement à bord du monorail local de Walt Disney World.
Maglev Express service to Mesa Verde leaves every 30 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to clap your paws, stomp your hooves, and ruffle your feathers as we welcome you to the
WDW Radio, your information station.
Every step through Japan tells a story. And this week, I want to share ours. From centuries-old villages to hidden antique shops, we went looking for adventure and found something even more meaningful. Because Japan continues to unfold its magic in part 2 of our Adventures by Disney recap as we travel to the serene mountain town of Takayama, the timeless village of Shirakawa-go, and the vibrant heart of Tokyo. But beyond the destinations, it was the small, unexpected moments that truly define the journey. The quiet ones, the funny ones, and the ones that simply took our breath away. From stumbling into a tucked-away backstreet antique shop, to mending broken pottery with gold, to the awkward bravery of stepping into your first onsen, this wasn't just a trip, it was an experience that changed us. It's about the connections we made, the lessons we learned, and the memories we will never forget, and the Adventures by Disney difference. Hello, my friend, and welcome to WDW Radio, your guide to the Disney parks, movies, and experiences from literally around the world. I am Lou Mangello, and this is show number 832. And whether you've been with us since the very beginning or this is your first episode, welcome home. For more than 20 years, I've been sharing my love of Disney here through the podcast, live shows, blog, community, group events, cruises, and more. And thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and being part of the WDW Radio family. I'm grateful for you, your time, and your support, because remember, you are not just a fan, you're a friend. Couple of quick things before we get started. First, I'm going to give you an extra week for our trivia contest about the Japan Pavilion in Epcot. Be sure to tune in to part 1 of our Adventures by Disney recap back on show 30 for the question and how to enter to win a prize package that includes an item or two that I brought back for you from Japan. Please don't forget to join the community and conversation over at the Clubhouse at www.radio.com/clubhouse. Watch and chat live every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. Plus, get weekly updates delivered right to your inbox, including a free copy of my 102 Things to Do at Walt Disney World at Least Once book by subscribing to the free newsletter at www.radio.com/newsletter. You can also take a virtual walk through the parks with me with my Walt Disney World audio guides. They are immersive 3D audio tours now available free wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are a creator or entrepreneur, please join me this October in Walt Disney World for my Momentum Weekend Workshop, a hands-on, in-the-room, 50-person, 4-day experience to help you build real momentum in your business and brand. You can learn more at lumangello.com/momentum, but don't wait. We are more than 60% sold out. And if you want to bring a little bit of Disney magic to your event, brand, or team, I deliver keynotes and workshops on leadership, storytelling, innovation, and customer experience. Let's talk. Visit lumangello.com. And when you're ready to plan your next Disney vacation, please go and visit my friends over at mousefantravel.com for free, expert, personalized planning, just like I've trusted for more than 17 years. And if you like what you hear, and I hope that you do, please rate, review, and share it with a friend. It helps more than you know. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. All right, we can spend a lot of time on a lot of these like little things that we love, but I do want to get to what is my favorite. It was my favorite stop the first time we went. It was the stop I was looking most forward to this time, and it still remains. And if I had to, I will eventually possibly move in Japan, buy something in Japan. Takayama, and I'll in I'll include Shirakawa-go here, this embracing the rural parts of Japan, these scenic mountain towns that are nestled in the Japanese Alps, really afford you this, and I think it's a special place that is this very peaceful, very authentic glimpse into traditional Japan, because there's these beautifully preserved Edo period streets, right? You're going back to the 1600s with these wooden merchant houses and sake breweries and artisan shops, some of which we all went into, sometimes multiple times. It's right on the Miyagawa River. So there's a lot of local produce, local foods, heat of beef, handmade crafts. Again, the vendors are so friendly, so welcoming, not just because you're a tourist and they want your money, but they're so, again, they're proud of whatever. And some of them, like, they sell one thing and they do it well. These handcrafted little items that you can get there. This was, again, you had the option to do a walking tour. You could do this peaceful, picturesque countryside bike ride through the rice paddies and views of the mountains. We had this hands-on experience where we went to a sake brewery. We learned about sake. We might have sampled 6 or 7 types of sake. And I think there's this wonderful contrast here to the energy of Tokyo or even Kyoto. And it really is the place that I sort of felt it wash over me. As somebody who's admittedly, I have a very tough time relaxing. It's like, it helps you slow down, and it's very serene, and you really sort of soak in the surroundings. And I felt like as you turned every corner, it was a scene from like a Ghibli movie or a traditional vintage Japanese poster. Once again, I'll just share a very quick story. The first time we went, when we had free time, Becky, back in 2019, I went off on my own for a little while, and I happened upon this little antique store, which I loved. My family has, I grew up like in an antique store. My family owned an antique store. I love just not bringing home souvenirs. I love bringing home things that are special. So I don't know how else to describe it. If you've been into an antique store, it has like a smell, and it just smelled like an antique store. So I had the memories of doing things with my parents, but I loved being able to hold things that were not manufactured for sale, but things that have been sitting around for, dozens, decades, if not hundreds of years. The same thing happened here. A couple of us didn't do the bike ride. It was me, my daughter Marion, Becky, and Lisa. We walked around and we found one of those antique stores, and I could have just spent the whole day in there just browsing around and coming back with these hand-drawn and hand-painted pieces that are hundreds of years old. Like, those are the significant things for me that I was able to bring home. I wasn't about the souvenirs or the gotcha, but those were special souvenirs. If anybody wants to share, if you went into Takayama, share your experience there. Just raise your hand, let me know.
So Nicholas and I did the bike ride that you had spoken about. And it was such an experience riding like along the rice paddies, and our guide was so amazing. He explained about a lot of the families that were on the roadside that lived there for forever, and that's what they do for a living. Their rice paddies are where they raise most of the grow most of the rice and sell it as their living. So we were able to also go to the mountainside, and Nicholas and I were able to drink mountain water. And it was so cold and it was so delicious. I don't know how to explain it. It was so clean. It was a great experience. The bike ride was amazing. And I'm so glad that, we also had that walking time in that little town.
Yeah, I mean, I could love on Takayama for the entirety of the show. But yeah, Lou, you're holding up from the antique shop. So we opted not to do the bike tour and just to continue roaming the streets of Takayama after the tour that we did in the morning, which was so cool. And we learned so much about like different types of sake. Like I now can like intelligently order sake, and we learned about miso and all these different things. And then wandering around the streets of Takayama, first of all, like spending all that time in that one particular antique shop, just going through these like Meiji era prints, like trying to communicate with this lovely, like older woman who owned the shop about, you know, what they were from and the background of them, and like, and negotiating, like, you know, buying, you know, going through stacks of them and picking which ones to bring home was so special. I think like, if I'm, as silly as it might sound, I think the best thing I ate the entirety of the trip was the Hita beef nigori that we had on there was this little booth, and the only thing that they did in the world, and the only thing that they had done in the world for like generations, was making this like Hita beef, like these slivers of Hita beef that was served like nigori, like on a rice block, and they served the whole thing on like a rice cracker. So the entire thing was disposable. And in Japan, you sit and you eat your food. You don't walk and eat distracted. So you bought this little rice cracker with these 2 pieces of rice and the Hita beef on it. And then you were guided you had to duck down into this little tiny doorway and like go into this little teeny space to eat it.
I'm so mad I don't have pictures of Becky crouching down to get into this little like suspect doorway to go eat her.
It was a little rabbit hole you had to go into. It was really fun.
If I could get my hands on it again, but like, the coolest thing is like you just realize like how good you can get at something if like you dedicate your whole life to like this simple task, which is like mastery of blank thing. And for them, it was that. The man with the keychains, like how can we not mention him? Like there was this darling older man who had this little like table set up in one of the shops, and he was just so full of joy. And he sat there and he would burn, like you could give him a picture of a pet or something else that meant a lot to you. And he would sit and use the picture to burn it into a keychain for us. And so, you know, I won't get into why that was special to me in that moment, but you know, suffice to say that was you know, a very special moment in the trip, as well as like sitting with Marion and Becky and you in that tea shop in Takayama and having those delicious teas. And they served that iced matcha with that cool bear ice cube. Like it just like everything there was just done with such love and care and like attention to detail. You know, on top of it just being one of the most like beautiful, welcoming places, you know, I've ever set foot in my life. Like Takayama, and, you know, like you mentioned Shirakawa-go, and we can talk about that too, but like just epitome of like what you picture when you picture like old Japan and all of its glory and like all of the things that it does well.
Becky, that's what I'm saying. That's like, we can't, it's hard. This is what we have such a tough time articulating are not the things that you read on the itinerary, but those little moments that happen collectively as a group or small groups or individually.
Exactly. And one thing that's funny, besides the beef, obviously, the Japanese know how to make food so cute that you don't want to eat it, or you have to buy it and then still not eat it because you're staring at it for a while. But that's the point about these types of trips, is so many people hear about group trips and guided tours, and they don't have these types of experiences. Honestly, there's only a handful of companies that I work with that provide these types of in-depth experiences and the time on your own to make these types of discoveries. So in Takayama, that again, this trip, while it was impactful the first time, this time was even more so. It's just a testament to sometimes you need to return to a place to really discover its soul when you're going, you know, in for only a couple of days. And this time it really was a little bit more spiritual, and it was a little bit more detailed, just as we're walking down the streets and looking at the gutter systems that look like little streams that make you feel incredibly balanced and a little zen-like in this craziness of all the tourists and all the food and all of the noise. I do really respect, but it's hard, especially for us, to maintain that do not walk and eat at the same time, especially in this location. Because, you know, in Epcot, what do? You go to a kiosk, you grab stuff, you walk and eat to the next one, and you walk and eat to the next one. And in this one, it really does kind of make you stop and enjoy the meal in front of you and enjoy the atmosphere in front of you. So I have a newfound respect for that role. But yeah, if I'm 5, almost 5'5", and it was hard to dip down into that little doorway. So I could just imagine someone like Nick or Kenneth having to do that, trying to make their way into that little space to eat that beef. But again, it's a story that we have now and that we'll tell every time we think about visiting the area.
Yeah, and everything was so reasonably priced too. Like we didn't even get into, the yen is very low right now, so we were able to. Yeah, it was definitely helpful. I want to keep going because I know we have a lot to cover. The other thing I want to touch on too, Lisa, you mentioned, which I think very much dovetails into Takayama, is Shirakawa-go. It is this UNESCO World Heritage Site. You may have seen pictures of it. It's very well known for they're called Gashozakuri farmhouses with these very steep thatched roofs because they get a lot of snow in that valley. So it's designed to allow that sort of heavy snow to fall off. But like Takayama, I think even more so, it feels like it's untouched by time. It feels as though the world continued to advance and Shirakawa-go just didn't pay attention. It's quiet and it's scenic and it's storybook or Ghibli movie beautiful with these incredible lookouts, and you can just wander the village streets and you really get a sense of the traditional craftsmanship and the lifestyle that has been the same for hundreds of years. And you get to understand how these people adapted to the harsh winters and they build these very close-knit, true communities. And here, there's no neon lights. There's not even a street light. Like, there's very, very few cars. It's very peaceful. It's perspective, and it's about preserving, somebody said it before, about sort of preserving that lifestyle, even with all these tour buses of people coming in. And for me, it was a surprising favorite because it is so small. It is very humble, and it is, I think, very deeply memorable in its simplicity. For those of you who went, did anything stand out to you about the village of Shirakawa-go?
Again, for me, it was about choice. And I love that fact that you go to this wonderful historical location and then you're on your own to explore the way you want to explore. So I know a lot of you took the path up to go to the overlook. A lot of people could do that. You could go into the little shops. You could just...
Nicole didn't have to carry me this year, which was nice.
I was about to get to that.
I wanted to beat you to the punch.
It did rain a little bit this time, and I thought that's when you were going to say, oh my God, I can't do this any longer. Nicole, help me. We have a great picture that we should share, with everybody.
You shouldn't.
Think I'll go ahead and do that. But while everyone went up to the top, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wander and meander these streets. And it was, again, another moment of while you're on this big group trip with a whole bunch of people that you love and adore, I had a moment that I was just alone and on my own and listening to the silence of the location and wandering through and watching people and looking at the fish. And it was a great opportunity to make that choice to say, you know what, I'm going to step back a little bit and just be on my own and have a moment. And this was a great location for that. And then as it started raining, one of my best memories is finding Ralph and Tomomi. And as we started walking back, there's this beautiful suspension bridge that you walk over to get to the town, and everybody had umbrellas. And it was like right out of a postcard picture that I got of maybe 50 people walking over this bridge, all with umbrellas. And I have that just in my memory as a takeaway, and I will never forget that day. It was really beautiful.
And just very quickly, you talk about the guides, you talk about those picturesque things. It's when we travel to any destination, we have the blessing and curse of a phone in our hands, right? We want to be present in the moment. We want to take it all in, but we also want to try and capture it. We want to share it with others for one reason or another. They're almost invisible when they do it, but I love that both of the guides are also armed with phones and cameras. And along the way, they are snapping both, posed pictures for you as well as candid shots. And those are some of the best ones. Not only do you get this wonderful on our last night, spoiler alert, there's this beautiful slideshow that they do, but they give us not a few, but like thousands of photos when we're done of you, your family, the places, the group. So you don't have to worry about trying to capture it yourself. And it's so nice because sometimes you look back and go, oh God, I didn't get a really good shot of this thing, or I went somewhere else. So it's nice to know that they're capturing that as well. Anybody else, any quick thoughts about Shirakawa-go, Sean and Nicole?
I was thinking too of what you were saying with the pictures. I really appreciated what Ralph had to say. Mm-hmm. That story he shared about his family when they would go to Disney and they would all look at the castle on the last night before they left, and how just to be living in that moment. And as we've done more of these adventures, I've just each time just pulling back more and more and just trying to live in that moment, because I know somebody's going to capture that picture somewhere, be it a guide or someone in a group, and just try to be more appreciative and just
in the moment,
enjoy the atmosphere of the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Shirakawa, it's just like, time just froze there. And it's just, I love that place too. It's just.
Yeah, it was, Kenneth? I had a picture that's been the wallpaper of my phone since the 2019 trip that I took at Shirakawa-go. So I was super excited to go back and relive that as well. And now I have another picture that I can use as my wallpaper.
The one of you carrying him up the hill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kenneth, Jason, or Carlos, any thoughts quickly on either Takayama or Shirakawa-go?
Yeah, not enough time in Takayama. That's the one. I mean, if I could spend an entire week there, I would spend an entire week there. And not just to try the onsen again. But it was an incredible place. I mean, I think everybody felt the same way. Leaving Takayama, it was like, oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you'd fit in another day there, but that's really, we needed like another day at least there, just to eat more, That's
why we didn't bike. That's why we didn't bike.
Shirakawa-go was just almost like a dream to me. It was almost like it didn't I mean, kind of, the weather was, the snow-capped mountains surrounding and then the Ghibli music they were playing on the way in, like to kind of get us in the right Zen state, and getting there and sort of a little bit of drizzle and probably the lightheadedness from the walk up the hill. Like all those things combined, it's just, it's like, did it really happen? It was kind of like a weird dream state. I have these pictures of me at the top. I don't really remember them, but yeah, it was not enough time in these really magical places.
Yeah, for me, I felt like that part of the trip sort of showed me the connection of the Japanese people to their land. When we took the bike ride, the thing that I loved the most about the bike ride, other than getting to talk to the guide and getting a sense of her and the culture in that area, was the explanations that she would give us about the rice and just learning how the rice is grown, how it's farmed, and then once it's farmed, how it's polished to remove varying amounts of the grain of the rice, so the outside protein and brown that's there in the brown rice that you eat in Japan. And then the more the rice is polished, the more of that protein is taken away and more of the starch and the sugar is left in the rice. And then as we were taking the food tour of Takayama, right after the bike ride, we learned how that process even affects the making of sake, and how the high quality sake is from the highly polished rice. And then, once I had that kind of exposure to the farming and the land and the connection, then all the other experiences I had after that, especially if they had anything to do with rice, which a lot of the food there, you're almost going to have rice every meal. It made all of that a lot more meaningful to me. And so, I think that whole experience to me really showed me the connection to the land and made the rest of the trip a lot more meaningful.
I mean, I think to your point very quickly, I know, Carlos, you want to add something too. You do bring up a great point. There is such a great educational aspect to this as well. And it's not sort of sitting down learning, but we pick up so much along the way. that we take back with us, whether it's about the food, whether about the culture, art, movies, whatever it might be. And I love that too, right? I love that there's such a great education. And I've felt this way since I was a kid. My parents, we didn't fly anywhere really, but we drove everywhere. I learned so much about America by traveling through it, by going to some of those little places down those side streets. And I think traveling internationally, that's what this does. And I think Adventures by Disney does an incredible job of not only taking you to some of those places, but fostering that sense of education as well.
Yeah, just about
Carlos,
the bike ride,
Jason?
there wasn't something else that coming that I was trying to video the bike ride, and so I was following the guide really closely, and we were talking, and then suddenly she looked to one of the fields and said, that we rent those little farms, we can rent for a year so we can harvest our food. And this morning I was harvesting, I think she was mentioning radish or something like that. Yeah, so
radishes. She had gotten out that morning.
And so calmly explaining, we woke up and we were harvesting radish, and then now we're enjoying a bike ride with you guys. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I woke up and I had this breakfast buffet, which was delicious.
Which we could do a whole other show just about the breakfast buffets.
Oh, the dinner buffet in Takayama.
I'm not sure if she realizes it. I am mad at Deanna every morning for not having curry and rice waiting for me on a little buffet in the kitchen. Yeah.
I just had miso soup. I kid you not. I had miso soup for breakfast this morning. Left because I can't. It's delicious. It's a wonderful way to start the morning.
I live like 5 minutes away. If you wanted to invite me over for a little breakfast,
for a little miso
soup.
Okay,
little miso soup and curry. Don't make it weird.
I bought a Toshiba rice cooker just to do my rice for breakfast.
I've never seen a man eat more rice in my life than Carlos did. He was saying, "Go on," as he would fall asleep on the bus and have these like dreams about rice. Yeah.
Sean, you have your hand
again
up?
on the bike ride? Because we had done it before, but this time it was a completely different experience. And the thing I really liked at the end was where our guide took us to this little shop where they just made those little crackers, and they were still hot. And those were so good. And I think every one of us bought bags of those things to bring back. But that was like one of my favorites.
We ate them on the bus. You ate the whole bag on the bus on the way back.
Oh yeah.
It was like 100-year-old shop or something. They've been doing that for 100 years or something, and just like a hole in the wall spot you would have never found on your own.
Yeah.
That
was just one of my favorite little moments there. It was just after that bike ride.
Isn't it funny you talk about some of these handmade artisan things that have been made in the same shop for 600 years, and Becky is jealous that I have a giant Cheeto on screen right now.
No, you have one? Oh my! All right.
I think we got one too.
I'm sad on so many levels that Cheeto isn't right here right now.
I have some extra.
You know what? I found out you can buy it in Amazon. I already bought it. Yeah.
Carlos, you can find everything on Amazon.
I need an affiliate shop of just our Japan favorites that you can buy in Amazon. I want to get to the last sort of part of our Adventures by Disney trip as we take, a bullet, which, it's the opposite side of the coin, right? Coming from Shirakawa-go and Takayama to Tokyo, right? We take the bullet train to the vibrant heart of Japan, where it's about lights and skyscrapers and nonstop energy and quirky fashion and Shibuya scrambles and the Shinjuku skyline, convenience stores 5 on every corner, but still a place where the neon culture and nature still kind of coexist. And this, Tokyo is always an interesting part of the trip to me. And this year we did something that was different, that was added on. So we did a couple of things that were different. So first we went to the Hokusai Museum. If you're familiar with the very famous painting of, it's not really a painting, it's the Great Wave and the 36 views of Mount Fuji. But the thing that when I looked at the itinerary, the thing that really caught my eye was the Kintsugi experience, and Kintsugi is, it's a Japanese art form where if you break a pot, if you break a cup, if you break a little dish, there is an art form of putting it together and mending it with gold. And it is something that is, has a very long history. I actually have a friend who is so enamored with Japan. He literally just did a 2-month-long Kintsugi internship. And I saw him while we were there. Our paths just happened to cross at the same time, the same day. And I could see it's a transformative experience for him. So for us to be able to do this and have this Kintsugi experience, and again, bring home something that is uniquely ours from somebody who is a true Kintsugi master. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I want to quickly put a pin in this. This was one of my favorite experiences of the trip. It was new. It was different. It's something I never would have found on our own. And I've got that thing, of all the things I took home, that's it, because I made it and it's uniquely mine.
Talking about a transformative experience. If you asked me before, we're going to Japan and you're going to do this little workshop about pottery and broken pottery, I will probably say, probably is not my thing. After 2 minutes doing that, one thing, I've decided to open up studio in Miami now. If anything breaks, if a cup or a glass break, tell me. I'll handle it. I already bought the kit in Amazon. I already bought the kit to do that at home.
Yeah, the dish that I made, I brought home to Christina as a souvenir, and she almost cried when I showed it to her and explained to her the process of making it and what it means, what it symbolizes, all about wabi-sabi and all of the, the symbolism that's in the beauty of our setbacks and disappointments in our lives that's sort of symbolized in that, beautifully broken pottery. And, she has that dish, that little dish that we made in the workshop in prominent display now where she can see it every day. And she really, that was of the things I brought back to her. That was the favorite thing that I brought her. So it was a very, very meaningful experience. And I am not artsy or crafty at all. In fact, I hate working with my hands. But there was something therapeutic about that. I don't know how to explain it, but there really was something therapeutic about it. And you left with not just an understanding of the symbolism of what you had done, but also something really beautiful you had made.
Mm-hmm. And there's no right or wrong way, right? It doesn't, It's not supposed to look like anybody else's, because the way it's broken, the way you repair it, the amount of gold you choose, how it's all uniquely yours. Did somebody else had their hand up?
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those deeply educational moments, and you're not just healing broken pottery, right? It's the philosophy, this important philosophy in Japan that your wounds are a part of you, and the things that are broken in you and the traumas of your history are a part of what make you beautiful and what you are, and the importance of embracing that instead of trying to hide it. And so in Japan, from ancient times until now, if a piece of pottery is broken, you don't throw it away, and you also don't try to glue it back together in a way that heals that hides the wounds. You literally, file the space down in between to smooth it out and make the gap, more noticeable and larger. And then when you do bring it back together or glue it back together, you do it in a way that highlights it with gold. And Kintsugi literally means to heal or to make with gold. Kin is the word for gold, and tsugi is to make or to heal or to put together. So it's such a transformative experience, but done in such a sort of lighthearted, cool space where we all kind of sat together and did our own project and picked our own bowl, with a gentleman who, I don't believe was 58 years old. I want to know his skincare routine, if nothing else. But again, it's like you said, and it goes back to like the same thing I said about being in that temple, with that old Buddhist temple where we had the meal. Like we all said, it was just one of those like ABD experiences that you never would have stumbled on otherwise. And it was another place where, and I noticed this again and again during the trip, whether it was in Shirakawa-go or walking around in Takayama or this experience, where the cool thing was a lot of the times I would look around me and I would see that there were like quote unquote Japanese tourists there as well. And like we were kind of experiencing the things that like people who were from Japan were choosing to go visit, on their own, whether it was like to walk around a UNESCO World Heritage site or, see this small town of Takayama or sit and have this like cool Kintsugi experience in this like basement studio with this, Kintsugi master. Like we were getting to do the things that like the locals were choosing to do as visitors of their own country. And it kind of made me realize each time like how well this trip had been curated for us.
Yeah, for me, I was like, this is it. Like, this is why, like, I never would have found this otherwise. And it made me so happy being there. Whether it's the Kintsugi experience or anything else in Tokyo, we did the Team Lab borderless experience. And then, the first few days of the ABD, you're like, wow, this is only day 2. We have 8 more days. It feels like it's going to be forever. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, it's the last day in Tokyo. And there's this very bittersweet end to the journey. And it's this wonderful crescendo of everything we'd seen. I think, I think it was actually the perfect place to say our farewells. And actually we went on this beautiful cruise on the river with spectacular views of the Tokyo lights. Anybody just thoughts about your experience in Tokyo, whether the things we did together on a group, if you went off on your own? We went to the, I'm drawing a blank on the name, the Kill Bill restaurant, which I know is always one of Becky's favorite things to do. Was there anything else in Tokyo that was notable or anything you wanted to share, Becky?
I just want to add something because what we haven't talked about really are the hotels. And yes, thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate that. Because, a lot of people...
It was next on my list, but okay.
Shangri-La was amazing.
If I knew that Kenneth was so excited, I would have started with the hotels.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just wanted to say that because I remember one of my best memories, of course, when you do this a couple of times and you get to see your faces when we experience these things. And when you checked into the Shangri-La and everybody came back together afterwards, your faces about the hotel and the rooms was just amazing. And I loved looking at everybody's just wide-eyed expressions of, oh my gosh, this is the best hotel ever. I love the way that they move you from the Hyatt into the Takayama Green, which, Lou, we know that was a very good choice this time. The last time, the middle hotel on any ABD tends to get a little bit of a bad reputation because it's moving usually between two areas that usually have a lot more quality hotels. But this time in Takayama, it was incredible. I loved that hotel. I loved the location. It was great. Mm-hmm. Shangri-La in Tokyo was definitely the crown jewel of the 3.
If there was only somebody on the call who enjoyed the Shangri-La hotel as much as you did.
The bar in the Shangri-La to have a champagne with that view. And Andrew, the bartender there was amazing.
Andrew, yeah. Mm-hmm. He was the hardest working man in a Tokyo bar. I swear he was doing like 16 things. And he looked so calm in very British fashion. He's a British guy. I'm like, which was weird, but also kind of nice. I don't know why, but to roll up to the bar and then be greeted by 007.
You're right.
It was kind of unexpected, but somehow fitting.
Did you have it shaken, not stirred?
Oh, yeah, I did. Just for him. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else's just comments about any of the accommodations?
Well, I felt like through the whole trip that the ABD had put us up in the best accommodations that were available in the area where we were. And it wasn't like, to me, there is obviously a huge difference in the hotels that are available in Tokyo versus Takayama. But the thing that I learned about ABD was wherever you are, they're going to put you in the best thing that's available in that area. And, if you're there just for luxury accommodations, it's not probably the trip for you. But, I would not, even though the hotel in Takayama wasn't as nice as the one in Tokyo, I would not have missed Takayama for the world. And the hotel they had us in was great. It was great. It wasn't, on the level of a luxury hotel in a major city, but it was great.
And it had two onsens.
Best in the area, for
had
sure.
two onsens.
Oh, the onsens.
Really cool blue pajamas.
So boys, would you like to talk
the
about
pajamas,
your onsen
right.
experience?
The pajamas.
Yeah,
Hotel
they gave you these
pajamas.
cool pajamas and shoes you could wear all over the hotel. It was awesome.
So
All
let's
that
just
matters is every hotel was in walking distance of a 7-Eleven. So that's
That's
the
right.
only accommodation I needed. And that's all that was valid.
So let's just quickly put a pin in this. We keep throwing around the word onsen and what it is. It is a natural. Some hotels, there's places you can go that outside hotels are natural hot springs that are divided by gender. I made sure on the last ABD I did it. I didn't get a chance to do it on this one. For those of you that did the onsen experience, would you care to favor us with a short revel about your onsen just quickly? Oh God,
I was waiting for
is a
that.
bad idea.
Buddy, please do that.
Briefly describe your onsen experience for a G-rated Disney audience.
Jason,
I will
you
just
have
say
to
this.
go first.
Of all the things coming into this trip, this was the thing I was the most nervous about because I knew I was like, I have to do it. But it is an experience, as people may or may not know, that you get into your baby suit for, and
birthday suit
and birthday suit. Yeah, whatever. Same. Okay, birthday suit. You get naked, people. You get naked, which is and I don't know about you, but public nakedness is not a thing I'm very comfortable with. I don't even go to the pool. I don't even like going to the pool, right? So, but the thing, the odd, what's weird is
you're
that
not supposed to go to the pool naked.
Well, that's
exactly.
true. That's true.
I hope you wear a
And
baby
Disney-
suit when you go to the pool, Jason.
Yeah.
Well, I do, but I still don't go. And so, but it wasn't the nudity part that I was the most nervous about, which is weird. I know it was actually that I was afraid that I would break some deeply sacred Japanese onsen tradition and be banned from the country or something, because there's a whole process to it, and it begins.
Please don't describe the process.
I won't.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I will just tell you this. Like there's places where you take your shoes off, and then there's a locker area, and then there's a process. And then there's there's like a washroom area, and then there's the pool there. And I made sure I went late at night. There were very few people on their way out, which was great. I had the whole place to myself. There was a moment where I was afraid I was being attacked by little fish in the water.
There were no
But
fish.
it turns out there were no fish. They were just leaves, because it's like an outdoor part of the onsen. I may have leaped into the air. Glad no one was there to see it. It happened.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I stayed in my room.
But it was lovely, and apparently there was another onsen that was downstairs. There was like two onsens. There was and some of the other guys went to that one, which was the wrong one to go to, because the one I went to was like the Cadillac of the onsens, because it had massage chairs, it had like little shiatsu foot massage things. It was like little Disneyland inside of the hotel. It was great.
Oh boy,
it was great.
Love it.
So I went one time. That was enough. I checked the box. It was a nice experience. And
Lisa's raising her hand for what I'm hoping is a very different onsen experience.
Very much so. I will leave the details with Jason's very accurate and lovely description. All I will add is for somebody who's coming in from quote unquote the outside to Japan, and this goes for an onsen or like any other of a long list of like Japanese cultural practices. Like when you're visiting this country specifically, I think one of the interesting things about Japan is like they have been such a homogenous culture for so long that they are, to a fault, almost extremely aware of how unknown and unfamiliar their practices are to people coming in from the outside world. And so the only comfort that I would, offer to anybody, whether it's about being nervous about doing something insensitive at a meal or at an onsen or at a karaoke night or whatever, is like, just know that like there's such little judgment for anybody who isn't Japanese when you're coming in from the outside. And there's a lot of like love in teaching you and in like holding your hand through the process, hopefully not at the onsen, but I mean, kind of taking a step back from like the specifics of the onsen, like just addressing like Jason's like nerves about that in particular. I think like specifically Japan in particular, like of all places and all of their like funny little, idiosyncrasies and like different things that they do in cultural practices, like know that like you're coming into a space where you're not expected to understand and like you will be guided through it. And the only other thing I'll add about
for the record, when I asked her, when I asked for her advice before I went to the onsen, I did not get any of this advice. What I got was good luck.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. I didn't get any of this. Like, oh, don't worry.
The only other thing I'll add about the onsen is it's a lovely lesson in like the world not caring about you as much as you think that they do. Because like while you're nervous about yourself and your own body and your own like whatever and doing the right thing and whatever Jason had happening, or like nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares. Like everybody's self-conscious about themselves. Nobody's paying any attention to you. And I think like the onsen is just like the perfect life, like it's like the perfect lesson, the perfect place to learn that like very significant life lesson that like all of the things that you're like caught up in about yourself and in your own head and all the things that you worry about, like everybody else is just so worried about themselves and their own like own nerves that like nobody's paying any attention to you. And like the onsen is just such a great place to learn that life lesson.
I will say
because
this.
Nobody cares.
I will say this, Lisa, and I think that you did go to the onsen that I went to. We weren't there at the same time, but it did not have foot massagers and back massagers and chair massagers.
No, but we did have washing machines.
We did have
which
washing
was lovely.
machines, which was
I'm telling
lovely. That was very kind of
everybody
them.
went to the wrong ones. There were two sets.
We didn't have the same experience, Jason, that obviously
No.
you did, just so you know. It was very, very unique.
Next time, I'll show you which way to go.
Okay, please do, because obviously I made the wrong turn.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right. So I want to, as I want to sort of start to tie this all in a bow, like now that we've sort of gone through the itinerary, I want to sort of relatively quickly, and I know that we've covered a lot and there's a lot that we're trying to convey about this, because clearly our love for this trip, our love for this place is hopefully coming through. And so I want to talk about it from a little bit more of a 30,000 foot view, specifically about, traveling as a group, traveling through Adventures by Disney. I absolutely want to talk about and hear your thoughts about our guides. So in any order, just sort of raise your hand. Talk to me a little bit about, in retrospect, how did traveling with the WW Radio group enhance your adventure or your experience? How did the Disney touch of Adventures by Disney, the storytelling, the attention to detail, how did that manifest its way or enhance its way through the trip? I told you all ahead of time. I had never met Frank before. I told you all about Tomomi, who was our guide, who I fell in love with. And I just wanted, I want to just take her home with me because of how amazing she is. Talk about how the guides enhanced that journey, or any sort of, moment or person that maybe have made the trip feel any more special or magical. Anyone? Sean and Nicole?
I'd say, especially with Tomomi, I mean, she just loves sharing everything she can, about the culture and it was so good to see her a second time, on this trip, and with Ralph as well as all the other guides we've ever been with. They are as much as part of the adventure as the places that we go and the things that we do. Just the extra mile and all the little things they do.
It was really amazing.
Yeah.
Good, Kenneth.
And I love the way they sort of fed off of each other. Ralph is this big ham. He's like, in Disney entertainment, and his job is sort of the comic relief throughout the whole trip. And then Tomomi with her pride in sharing Japanese culture with us and making sure that we understood the cultural significance of the things that we were experiencing. And, just the little things. We'd get on the bus and, Tomomi would have a word for the day, and then she would explain, how student driving works in the country. And, from that point on, you knew the symbol for a student driver, and I would see it all over the highways, little things like that add detail and granularity to the experience that make it real. I said the group added a huge dimension. The guides also added a huge dimension to the trip. And, everything from Ralph playing, Africa when we go to the bathroom to, his little tricks. He would try to distract us from the button pouch, and he would have us like, oh, it's about to start right there in that window. We'd all look up there and then you'd go, oh, it's me with the pins. And, giving us at some surprise point through every day. All of those little touches that the guides brought was just, it would not have been the same trip without them.
By the way, I realized I called him Frank because I just I have bullet pointed notes, and I'd written something down about Tomomi, and I had Ralph, who nobody felt looked like a Ralph. Everybody wanted to call him Frank or Steve, so I don't know. I think that's why I called him Frank.
I think we came up with the name for him, Chad, or something. Lisa, didn't we come up with Chad or something?
Not Chad.
No, what was it? It wasn't Chad. It was... Was it Craig?
I think it was Craig.
See? You're all getting confused.
I think it was Craig.
Okay.
Poor Ralph.
I think it was Craig.
Don't poor Ralph. There's no poor Ralph. No. He can take it.
Ralph
He dishes it out.
Ralph is living a pretty good life. I think he's all right.
And you know what I love about the guides is, they're so knowledgeable. They're so personable. They make you feel so comfortable, so welcome. They're so helpful along the way, whether it is not just sort of in doing their quote unquote, day-to-day job to get you here and there, but enhancing the experience, making you feel comfortable, helping you find a place to go, helping you if you have an individual issue or challenge or need, whatever it might be. They really, it's, Becky, we've talked about this in the past. Adventures by Disney does not just layer on additional experiences. It layers on an additional level of invisible security. I think that gives you this, I sort of call it like that warm Disney hug. You sort of know that you have that security and sort of blanket around you. But, the cast member in them comes out a lot. And that cast member like experience that's with you all the time, it makes or breaks it. Like what could be a very long, boring bus trip is fun, and they bring the group together and they do, and it's so natural and it's so organic. And they make you feel like family from the very beginning, and they make you feel sad to go at the very end.
Yeah, you created a family, even if you knew each other or didn't know each other. The guides pull everyone together. I love that they're Disney trained, so they're Disney cast. So that's why we have that immediate affiliation with them, because we know what a Disney cast member is. And of course, like everyone's kind of alluded to, in Japan, you kind of feel like you've got Disney cast members all over the place. But they can, as they work together, they're looking for details, they're looking for information, they are anticipating needs. It's a tough job for them to do. And a lot of people don't understand that when they leave us, there's a ton of work they have to do behind the scenes as well. So when we're thinking, oh yeah, they're just relaxing and off having a beverage, No, that's not what's happening. They're prepping for the next day. They're getting all the things together. They are the ducks on the water with their little feet paddling underneath, making sure everything is going to be as perfect as it can be for the rest of us. So I completely appreciate their job, and even more so that they do such a great job of bringing everybody together as a family very quickly, even when you don't know each other, so that you can have that experience together.
Mm-hmm. They also just masterfully handle the social dynamics of the group in a way that is so well done that you barely even realize that they're doing it. Whether it's Ralph pulling up the rear, as we're walking along the streets, and kind of some of us are lingering, and some of us I always was taking pictures the whole time, so I'd have a tendency to kind of fall back and have to catch up a little bit. But Ralph was always sort of positioned toward the back of the group and Tomomi toward the front. So no matter where you were never lost. You always had one of them with you. You always felt like you were, sort of bookended on both sides, no matter how much the group was getting dispersed and kind of doing its own thing and focusing on different things they wanted to focus on. Also, if we were at a meal and, we were all friends and we were all amongst friends and wanted to be together. But when you're breaking up and sitting at, four top tables, one or two people might end up breaking off or not having somebody to sit with. And, they would sort of seamlessly sit with those people and you'd have a great conversation with them, for that meal and get to hear, some of the backstories from them, or maybe have a more human moment with them.
Yeah.
I think my appreciation, not just for their expertise of the area and their anticipation of our needs and all the things that they were visibly doing throughout, but also the extent to which they were very seamlessly making sure that from a social perspective, I mean, a group like us maybe didn't need it as much, but you could see in a group that doesn't know each other as well, or there's all traveling together where there might be more awkward moments like that, how much more they would be able to bring to that experience too.
And then snacks.
Snacks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There was always snacks, a lot of snacks, and water on the bus.
I was going to say, one of my most treasured things that we were able to bring back was when, what we got on, I think it was on the last night, when Tomomi gave each of us, she had actually written out everyone's name in Japanese, individually. And she did that on her own time, which, they don't have a lot of extra time, but she did that and presented that to each of us, which I thought was really special that she had taken the time to do that.
I agree.
Yeah, and it was calligraphy, really artistic calligraphy on a large format. It was really well done. A lot of work.
So, it's there is so much this trip, and we can keep talking, and we can continue to share all of there's so many stories that we didn't even get to, and I know you guys have been so generous with your time tonight and you listening at the table with us. Just very quickly, we'll sort of do almost a little bit of rapid fire. If you have something to share, just sort of bark it out. If I asked you to say, is there one moment you would never forget from this trip, what would it be?
Meat mochi.
Meat mochi. Oh my gosh, the meat mochi.
Meat mochi. It was one of those unexpected, serendipitous discoveries that turned out to be, it was a little scary at first, turned out to be amazing. Meat mochi.
My moment is probably going to be very similar to most people's on this trip, I would think. But it's walking through that garden and being led through this, meticulously, so well taken care of area, and coming through this little arch and seeing this temple on the hill in almost what looks like a postcard, or what embodies what you'd think would be historic Japan. That was the moment that I was I'll never experience anything
and for
like
me,
this in my life
actually,
ever.
was that. After that moment, after the lunch, when we left, and I look to the family, the lady, the priest, and the Yuki, and saying bye to us. They were saying bye to us. That was the
Yuki.
moment of the trip.
What surprised you most, either about this trip, Adventures by Disney, or Japan?
I would say the enthusiasm with which the Japanese people welcome you. And when you leave, I always picture the Japanese people before I experienced them up close. I always picture them as reserved and very, just reserved, I guess is the word for it. But when you leave a restaurant and the entire wait staff and the owner of the restaurant come out and they're doing jazz hands to wave goodbye to you, that is not the Japan that I expected. And that is how it was almost everywhere we went. It was just, they are very quiet and considerate of each other, but they also welcome you with great enthusiasm.
Yes, and there's a lot.
And they
There is a lot of warmth.
that you're welcome.
I used to think about that. There could be a little bit of, well, I would not say coldness, but to be reserved in a way that there was no warmth. But there was a lot of warmth, not only toward us, but you can see between them, and that was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
What about the trip as a whole? Did this live up to your expectations? Did it live up to the price? Did it live up to the promise? Especially if this is your first ABD, is Adventures by Disney something you would do again and recommend to somebody else?
Well, I would say in terms of price, of course, these are not inexpensive trips. And for some people, they would be major investments, and they are, major investments. But I would say in terms of value for money, the money just pales in comparison to the experience, in my opinion. I think the experience is worth so much more than what I paid for the trip, for sure.
I would say too, it's the assurance and insurance of the adventures that really hit home for me, especially for traveling out of the country, to have that safety and security blanket and to know that you're taken care of. And that, for me, it's just can't put a price on that.
John, that's huge. What I was going to say too. I was going to say the same thing. The quality that they put in, and that you feel from the second you land in the country till the second you leave, the safety that you feel with them and that they do for you is, I think, priceless, because you always feel comfortable. And in all the ABDs that I've done, I've always felt comfortable, especially this one, because I didn't know, anything about it. I only went by what Lou had said to me, like, Deanna, you're going to feel so safe. It's unbelievable how safe you're going to feel. And it's the truth. Like, he was 100% right. Like, I want to go back, and I wish that some of that could come here. Just even an ounce of it, it would make the world of a difference.
I would say that it is not inexpensive by any stretch. However, if there's a place, whether there's a bucket list place or some place in the world that you long to see, or you're just, super curious about, but I'm just not ever going to go there on my own, or I'm not comfortable, exploring that area or something. ABD is the way to do it, if you can do it, because everything that's already been said, you will be taken care of, and it will be done in a way that's going to be, it's going to feel familiar from a Disney brand standpoint. It's going to feel accessible. You're going to be taken care of. It's going to have a family appeal to it, even if it's an adult only trip. It's going to still have a very comfortable pace and sort of just dimension to it, in some places that may not otherwise be very comfortable. And so I think for someone who's on the fence about, I don't know, I could spend, if you're looking at spending the equivalent amount of money to, on a trip or something, I think that would be the reason to do an ABD. Would be, it's going to give you access to some place that you probably aren't going to go on your own. Like for me, I just be honest, like for me, I wouldn't do an ABD to Wyoming, even though I know a lot of you have and want to. Like Carlos and I have this debate all the time. He wants to do it. And I'm like, I've been to Wyoming like 6 times. I know where to go. And I know it wouldn't be the same experience. I know I would get to go to the Dude Ranch and do all the things and stuff, right? But that just wouldn't be how I would spend the money. But go to Vietnam, no, that's probably not a place I'm going to go on my own. So I think ABD it really does serve as this sort of this key to unlocking these experiences in parts of the world that I think a lot of us wouldn't do on our own.
Yeah, and I'll say this too.
I'll echo Jason on that. I mean, I think the money is worthwhile if you have the money. It's not a trip that you can't make happen on your own. It's not a trip you can't research to death and try to orchestrate in some way, shape, or form on your own. If you have the wherewithal and it's doable for you, it is an extraordinary way to see the world. With your, handheld and an extraordinary amount of comfort and, knowing that, you'll be taken care of along the way. For me, Japan was the perfect place to have an experience like that. And there's, a short list of other places where, if I could make it happen, I would love to. Cost is a relative thing. And I think you choose where you can and choose to spend your money. And, I think for a lot of us, it's travel and, how you choose to go about that travel. Without question, I can say that, it was worth the cost. If I break down the amount of money that I spent on this trip and then look at the variety of experiences that I had along the way, 110,000%, it was worthwhile. I also realized that I was very lucky to be able to be in a position to make that happen. So yes, absolutely, worthwhile. And, if it's something that's accessible to you, and, in a location that's a priority for you, I would say yes without blinking an eye.
And I would say this too, when I consider all the experiences that were part of this trip and all the meals and the quality of lodging that we had, even if I could put this trip together on my own, which you can't because Disney has access to experiences that you can't find on your own. But even if you could, I don't think they're charging you very much of a premium considering all that is included in the trip and all of the experiences that you have. I think the premium is very reasonable for what they're, offering you in return, and all the unique experiences. They're just one of a kind and they're priceless, really.
We've actually done some comparisons when we've looked at some of these high cost trips because we know that these aren't cheap trips, right? And we understand that it's not easy for everybody to attend them. So we've gone out and we've looked at what ABD does and where they take you and what they do. And we've compared it and price compared it to some other companies and other experiences. And you're right, they're on par, especially considering there's things that others cannot do. I mean, the temple with lunch that we're all amazingly going around and around about, that's not something you can easily add to just any tour. So you kind of have to factor that in as well.
Yeah, I have there's a million more things I want to talk about about this trip, but I want to be respectful of your time and you who's listening. Is there what's one piece of advice you would give to your pre-trip self? Knowing what you know now, experience what you know now, what would you say to yourself before going on this trip?
I would say, don't worry. Don't plan so much. Don't think. Don't have expectations. Just
Are you talking to Jason? Are you specifically talking to Jason?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say just show up and open yourself. Be open to the experiences and show up and do it. That's because I stressed about it and really tried to, plan and do all these things. And you don't need to do that.
You're right.
Just show up and be open to the experience. That's the beauty of it.
I think my advice would be don't be afraid to not do some things. Like, I think there are, we talked about it earlier. Some of us at various times, like, decided not to do an activity or to sort of like take a break or something. And I think that would be my advice would be, don't, if you're tired or if you feel like there's this thing you really want to go do that otherwise you're not going to be able to do, then, just talk to the guides and let them know what you're going to do instead. And don't worry about it, because you're not going to be there. It's going to be a long time maybe before you're there again. So take advantage of the opportunity of being in a space you're in. And I think that would be, I think for some, I think a lot of it has to do with also where you are in the world, right? Again, so if I was in Egypt or something, I probably wouldn't feel as comfortable going off on my own as I did in Kyoto. But it would be, I think Kent's right. Like, just kind of go with it, but also at the same time, don't hesitate to kind of sort of chart your own path too at times if you feel like that's what you need to do.
Sometimes that's where some of the best experiences happen, right? Or where you sort of let yourself go down that street, find that little hole in the wall place, or, this unexpected surprise. Anybody else advice you'd give to your pre-trip self? Deanna? Just
remember to enjoy it and be present at everything.
That's what I was saying.
It's just, that's just so cool to be able to enjoy the experience with the people and the place.
Live in the moment.
Especially toward the end, because it starts to go so fast. Like Lou, I think you said it at one point early on, like the first few days you're like, all right, like one day at a time, like I'm savoring every moment. And then all of a sudden it's like day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And, and it all starts to go into fast forward. And I feel like, keeping yourself, and a part of that is like taking those moments of downtime for yourself and like not letting yourself become overly exhausted, because the days are long and you do want to milk every moment for every second that it's worth. And so like keeping that sort of slow paced mindset and enjoying each day for what it is, I think like, I don't know if it would be possible to like do it perfectly throughout the entirety of the trip, just given the nature of it and how much is involved and how quickly time does pass toward the end. But like, I wish I could have maintained that sort of slow paced, one day at a time feeling that I had early on, toward the end of that trip.
Becky?
I agree. I think living in the moment and don't overpack. Those are the two things. If you just take the time to live in the moment.
There is no storage. There is no storage in a Japanese hotel.
There's nothing in these hotels to put anything or anywhere. That's the truth. And just breathe and relax and enjoy every minute with your family and friends, because you cannot, and I will say this to all of us and you, Lou, you cannot get this time back. And it's going way too fast. So just live in the moment.
Becky?
And kind of spinning on that, I think that I would tell myself from the first time we went, because I kind of consciously tried to do it on the second time, is put the phone down a little bit and really take in your environment, what you're walking through, what you're doing, and don't hesitate to engage with the local people. Even though you can't speak the language, it's a little fun to learn about them and to acknowledge their lives and to learn about their lives and the things that happen on the other side of the planet and what they take pride in. My brain immediately goes to Keychain Guy in Takayama and watching him and his craft and putting all that together. But everything goes so fast right now, and if we could just get out of the crazy spin that we have with technology and just kind of put the phone down and be present and enjoy every single minute, because as everyone said, it goes by so fast. Mm-hmm. And the moment I was leaving, I wanted to go back.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about that.
We will.
My very last.
Is there another one we have to talk about? Where are we going to put that one in?
We'll figure it out.
We already have 2027.
Listen, this trip was remarkable for so many reasons. I'm so grateful to have been able to share it with you. I'd like each of you to just very, very quickly finish this sentence. When I think back on this trip years from now, I'll remember ... Jason. I'm just going to call on you.
God, you're making me go first. And when I think about this trip, I will remember hospitality, like the warmth, and I don't just mean the temperature. But the warmth of the whole experience, the people I was with, the people I encountered, everything. It was just like a big hug.
Yeah, I'll second that. The people and the warmth, and experiencing it with someone I love very much, my son.
Oh, I thought you meant me, and I mean your son too.
I would say that
Lisa?
being gentle,
Carlos,
it is the way to be, and how far you can go with that. So that was amazing to see how being gentle has an effect on you.
I love that. Lisa, Sean, Deanna?
I think, just being with all of you in this extraordinary place will stay with me forever, and just the entirety of this experience. And just to add on to what Carlos said about gentleness, I think with the thing that I left with mindset wise that has been so helpful to me and would be helpful, is helpful to all of us, is just that the usefulness of a service-minded mindset, of like like approaching the world with an eye toward like how you can best serve the people around you. And like, it's a thing that I've gone back to again and again, because, you think about expertise and specialization and like mastering things, and you come into that, and it's like you look at these people in like this little hut, like making their little heat of beef strips that they've been making for hundreds of years and for generations. And like the first thought as an American coming into that is like, don't you get bored? Like, aren't you bored because you're doing the same thing every day, age in and age out, since you were a little kid and your grandparents did it and your parents did it? But that's not the mindset at all. The mindset is like, let me master this one thing so that I can be of best service to the people around me and of best service to my community. And I think just like approaching the world like that is such a great thing. And like, setting aside like the warm hug that this trip was, which is what I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, just that this mentality of service, I think is such a useful thing to bring home with me.
Sure, Nicole?
Yeah, I feel similar to what everyone else has been saying. It's refreshing to see the better side of humanity. It's something I wish we could get a lot of that back over here. We could really use it. Just the respect, the cleanliness.
I'm going to leave you with this, you guys. Karaoke.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
All right? That's what I'm leaving you with. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I'm just so thankful and so grateful that we were able to do this trip again. And we enjoyed it so much the first time, and we enjoyed it so much this time as well. And the people on the trip made it so much fun. And it was great to see it kind of like what Becky was mentioning before, is we've had the chance to see how other people see Japan for the first time, and they enjoyed it just as much as we did. And getting to see that was really awesome, and share that with them of, yeah, we did this and you're going to love it. And they actually did. And I loved seeing that on other people that we were with. So excited.
Nicholas,
can we go back?
Yes, we can. Yeah. I'm going to talk to Becky about this. Nicholas, I want you to finish this sentence. When I think back on this trip years from now, I will remember ...
I will remember the people. I remember the impact it had on me, and I will remember all the delicious food that I ate while I was there. Like, words, I can't put into one word how much this trip meant to me from like personal standpoint, like experiencing it from a cultural standpoint. When I think back on this trip, it will be the impact that it had on me.
Becky?
Besides the need for giant cheetahs.
You can find it in Amazon.
Exactly.
You can find it in Amazon.
There's so much, and the need for lychee water and all the other things that I now need to go to Wajimaya and see if they can special order for me. This one in particular, I think maybe I'm getting just a little older, a little wiser, or something of that nature, or maybe it's the world today. But I think that I will bring home the people, not only people I traveled with, but the people and the culture of Japan will be the thing that I remember most, especially we have so much to learn from other cultures. And I don't think that we take the time to really understand others, and travel really helps you teaches you about others and other cultures, and helps you with an understanding that it's not right or wrong. It's just different, and tolerance is important. And I think it was this trip more than any really drove that home, seeing how people treat each other and the respect. I will walk away with a sense of more respect for my humans around me. I mean, even the fact when you stand in front of a monorail and one person's standing there, and all of a sudden the monorail's coming, and it's going to be a couple of minutes, and the second person comes and they stand behind the second person, and the third person standing behind the second person, and it's orderly, and people have common courtesy for each other. And I think we've somewhere lost that in our culture. And that really hits home to me, to hopefully remember how respectful I felt, and people felt, or that I felt about them, and that I could bring that forward into my life now, no matter where I live.
Yeah, it's funny and sometimes sad that things like courtesy and respect and the way we treat one another is something that is not practiced by everybody everywhere. I'm going to cheat because I said you're trying to think of one thing, but I said when I think back on this trip, I'm going to remember three things. One is impact. I am so happy, and it fills my heart to see how impactful this trip was on all of you and everybody that we talked to, right? I think we're very much representative of the people, everyone else who was on this trip, of how impactful it was for you personally, how impactful it was for you beyond, I got to visit Japan, I got to eat this thing, I got to see this thing, but impactful in terms of the way it has made you feel about people in all the different ways that we have talked about. I love, the word love came to mind because I love this place so much, and I love the fact that for all of you who've heard me just go on about it incessantly for years, have that same feeling of love for this and appreciation for this place as well. And it's a sense of gratitude. It is an absolute sense of gratitude. It is a privilege and a blessing to be able to travel like this. I know that. I am aware of it. I'm aware of it before, during, and after it happens. I am grateful for each and every one of you for taking that leap of faith and your willingness to share this experience with me and the people that you love. I'm grateful to Timoni and Ralph or Frank or whatever his name was, and Adventures by Disney for the way that they curate this and the way that what they have done to make us feel the way that we feel. It's what Disney does. What Disney does best. I'm grateful to, I know this sounds stupid. I'm grateful for the people of Japan for inviting us into their home and allowing us to, and sharing with us so freely everything that they have and they do, and being able to take so much away from it. So I have an enormous sense of gratitude across the board for each one of you, and certainly for you who has been listening. But now let's talk about Tokyo Disneyland for the next 3 or 4 hours. Obviously,
I can't believe we haven't already talked about that. I really can't believe it.
Can I say one other thing that hasn't been said?
Yeah.
And I think everyone on this call and everybody on the trip would agree with this. And there's one dimension of this trip that you would never bring up, but it is the extent to which you and Becky curated this experience with ABD. The fact that we were able to buy out the entire trip and it was just us gave you the ability to make this experience special for us. And all of us could see you. Even during the trip, you were not on a vacation. The two of you were making sure all of us had a good time. And I think that adds another dimension to the trip that even if you did this trip with ABD, you would not have unless you did it with MEI and with WDW radio. It really did add a dimension of the experience that we could not have gotten anywhere else. And I think we're all grateful to you for that.
Well, thank you for that. And the last person I was going to thank was, the last person sort of individually and collectively was Becky, right? I think I'm happy that it's invisible to you guys what happens and what she does and that the amount of time she takes behind the scenes, and to her advisors, and to your individual advisors who do so much to ensure that you have a truly special experience, which I had hoped for, and after hearing you, believe that it was. We will talk about Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. Let's save that for a separate show because I think it deserves it, and certainly, I told you before we started recording, I promise this won't be a 4-hour show. Did I deliver? It's only 3. And we still haven't talked about Tokyo. But sincerely, thank you guys again. Go traveling with a group of friends that you've known and the friends that you will makes it so much better of an experience. And I promise you, this is something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And my only hope is that we can do this again soon. So,
I guess
Carlos,
I got to look at the calendar.
Yeah, we have a lot of things that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to share on this episode and coming soon. But there's a few more things we're going to have to add to the list as well. So, Carlos and your wife, Kenneth and your son, Sean, Nicole, Lisa, Jason and your wife, everybody who is on this ABD, and to you who is listening as part of this call, thank you so very much. And all right, just very quickly, rapid fire, last thing, best thing you ate on this trip. Go.
Oh, hide a beef. Oh,
melon pan.
No,
Firefly
the meat. The maple leaf cake from the island there was amazing.
Oh, the ice cream from the island,
and that eel Miyajima was really good too. And the fried oysters.
The oysters. I was going to say the oysters. We didn't even talk about that.
Salad.
Those oysters were so
salad
good.
Sandwich from the temple.
The egg salad sandwich.
Egg salad.
Yes, from the temple of 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Yes.
Katsu.
Those ice cream sandwich things from 7-Eleven that Ralph turned us all on to.
The smoothies,
the coffee from 7-Eleven.
Couldn't find it every
the
single
coffee machine.
Coolish, baby. And what was the thing that Nick was doing, putting a Coolish in an iced coffee?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
He was the coffee. It was the coffee. We went to 7-Eleven every day for coffee. It was amazing.
Yeah, I don't want to look at my credit card to see how much I actually invested in 7-Eleven on this trip.
I saw
the 7-Elevens and the gotchas.
The tempura. All the tempura. Every single piece of the tempura. And pretty much anything in the snack basket. Except for the honeybees.
Thank you again for listening and for being part of the WDW Radio family. I am so grateful for you, and I hope that you found some magic in this week's show. Please come talk about this or anything you like over in the Clubhouse. It's our fun, free, welcoming community over at www.com/clubhouse. Connect with me on social. I'm at Lou Mongello on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed the show, and I hope that you do, please help spread the word, share the show, and tell a friend. Remember to be kind, choose the good, have a great day, and even better tomorrow. So until next time, stay hungry. See ya.